what?
Cut! No, man. You're making me fall asleep. To death, bro. Okay, the line is... Say what?
Download the video, play the video, and not even do it through YouTube. It's ridiculous. Okay, so listen to what he says, and then let's see, is he accurately citing what he claims he's done with what he actually did? Can you imagine if I made a misspeak, right? If I said the wrong word at the wrong time, or if I had a typographical, right? Or perhaps if I did a video about Leon Foucault and accidentally did one about Michel Foucault, not realising it was a different bloke, and then quickly removed it, I'd be laughed at, right? Or triangles, if that's one of the other ones. And rightly so, right? If you think I fucked up, you are entitled to express your opinion.
Right. You mean, for instance, when you said density is a force and you deny gravity as a force? You mean like when you said there's an eclipse every month, but it's out at sea and nobody sees it? By the way, that you bet $1,000 or £1,000 to somebody and didn't pay him. How you said you got 5 divided by 0 wrong and then argued with everybody that told you that you were wrong. How mathematics was wrong, but you were right. How you said that density is why things fall. What else have you said, Riley? You've said so much stupid that... Oh, you mean when you did a whole article, a whole video on the wrong Foucault for his Foucault's pendulum, and called the guy a queer, and that's how he died from AIDS? You mean like those mess-ups, Riley? Yeah.
Let's listen to what he says carefully. Listen to what words he uses, because he puts a word in there that wasn't in there in the video. So let's hear what he says.
Yeah, that's nice, but that doesn't undo the container.
Yeah, we're talking about gas pressure and the necessary antecedent for gas pressure. So if you globetards could show us how to have pressure without a container, then you have something to talk about. But you can't demonstrate that here on Earth.
It has been demonstrated. You know perfectly well it has been. Yeah, Blue Marble Science showed it to you.
No, he didn't.
Oh my
Blue
God.
Marble Science showed it to us, really?
No, he didn't.
Yeah, it was an open container. It was
open container. What a dick. So he showed us gas pressure without a container, and you say yes. He showed us an open container. That would be a container, Brenda.
So still moving the goalpost around, are you, Nathan? You know, when you started out, you guys, you, QE, all the rest of you, said that you could only have gas pressure in a sealed container. And you know something? You were right.
Actually, that's not correct. There's 2 points. One is gas pressure requires a container. But if it's not sealed, over time it will leak. It'll disperse into the atmosphere like a fart in a lift. Starts off strong, gradually disperses. That's what will happen over time. You're conflating the requirement of a sealed container to stop the effects of entropy with the requirement of a sealed container full stop. No, what we're saying is there needs to be containment. There needs to be containment to have gas pressure. It's in the definition. So at this point, what I want to do, gas pressure I want to show this because this is basically... Okay, what is the cause of gas pressure? All you got to do is ask that into Google and you'll get these results, right? Pressure is caused by the collisions of the atoms between the gas and the walls of the container as the atoms travel in a confined space. More molecules means more collisions, like blowing more air into a balloon. The walls of the balloon get tighter, decrease the volume. Okay, so if you're not happy with that one, you can go see what else. Socratic.org, walls of the container, motion of its molecules, sciencing.com doesn't mention... Oh, there you go. Gas molecules moving freely about, bouncing off container walls. Gas pressure is measured in walls of the container causes pressure. So we know that the cause of gas pressure is container, right? The cause of gas pressure in the heliocentric model is not gravity. It's not a force. It doesn't do anything. It might be an effect. It might be an observed phenomena, but it's not a cause. Gravity doesn't cause anything. It's not a force. It can't do anything. This is the undoing of their model. It destroys their model, and they hate it, and they have to obfuscate this point, and we have to ram it down their little throats. Pictures of Earth from space. Just go to anything from NASA. Click on images. Now, come on. So if the Earth is in space, the walls of the container become the Earth. And I know that there's no containment, but the definition from Pascal's law states that the pressure of a gas exerts force equally in all directions against the walls of its container. That means the walls of the container for gas pressure would be the Earth, and it's all being pushed out in all directions, as you can imagine easily on their model. The problem is, there's no force bringing it back. So if the molecules are all bursting into the vacuum of space, at pressure, 500 meters per second, I think they call it, how fast does gas pressure, how fast does gas travel in Earth's atmosphere? Atmospheric, I think it was about 500 meters per second. I can't remember the value now. For some reason it's not. How fast does gas travel? Gas particles. There we go. Between 300 to 400 meters per second, right? At that rate, it's not going to take long for these gas particles to burst into space, is it? And bear in mind that the density gradient of the atmosphere is getting less and less the higher they go. That means that there's less impact, less collisions with other particles, and there requires something to bounce off for them to come back. Because once they're going out in a direction, right? All directions are up, all directions are into space. How are they coming back? Newton's laws of motion state that an object in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by force. We know that gravity is not a force. I mean, this destroys their model. It's probably one of the best arguments, right? And couple it with gravity not being a force, it literally unpicks their model at the beginning. You don't even have to argue about things like pictures from space, satellites, anything else. Doesn't matter what anybody wants to argue, GPS, all of it gets undone by these two arguments. Because the gas pressure is pushing out in all directions, right? Pascal law states equally in all directions, not down, equally in all directions. There's no bias for gravity because gravity is not a force. It kills their model. 300 to 400 meters per second doesn't take long for them to get into space. Immediately, it would equalize with space, wouldn't it? So we know that the cause of gas pressure is the container, right? It's not gravity. If you were asked in a GCSE physics,
Mr. Madison, what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
No one's calling him out on it, Riley, because you're not putting in the part where Quantum Eraser and Nathan Oakley both said that the pipe better be sealed or there'll be no pressure within it. Blue Marble Science did a fully acceptable experiment. No one on the baller side is saying anything to him because he showed you guys gas pressure without a container. You put up a Wikipedia definition of gas pressure and then say it doesn't say anything about gravity. That's because, Riley, atmospheric pressure and gas pressure are two different things. That's why they have two different meanings. That's why they're called two different things, because they are different. Why would gas pressure, when they're talking about in a container, have the word gravity in it? You make no sense. You know what you're doing. So does Quantum Eraser and Nathan Oakley, who, by the way, is the world's worst piece of shit human being I've ever met. He beat his own kid. He smacked his own kid on while he was doing a live stream. So he's just a foul mouthed child abuser who is a totally dishonest piece of shit. So all this aside, just because you don't understand the difference between gas pressure and atmospheric pressure, that's not our fault. Just because you guys put the contingency that, oh, it better be sealed or it's not going to have any gas pressure in it, and he showed you gas pressure in an open pipe. Just because it was in a pipe, that don't make it a container. I mean, you guys are nitpicking a word. He could have. So if he would have put it in a cereal bowl, would that have been a container? Of course it would have, because to you guys, anything's a container if it debunks your shit. Don't work. Get a life. Grow up. Do everything flat.
That he wants me to find here with it being done over text. Atmospheric pressure is defined as the force per unit area. Well, there isn't an area, is there, Raggy? There's an infinite area, so there isn't an area. The Earth is the container, but the gas is pushing against it in all directions, isn't it, Saucy? Yet you somehow believe that there is some way around this on your model. Your model is destroyed immediately with this. Pascal's law is your science. It applies because it exerts its force equally in all directions against the walls of its container. Well, the Earth would be the wall of the container in this case, wouldn't it? I know it's the antithesis of a container because it's keeping everything out, but that gas pressure, if there was any, would be pushing against this and fucking off into space. Saucy, you haven't got anything to stop it from. You need something bouncing it back, or you need a very powerful force, and you haven't got any forces. Even if you did have a force, it's this gravity thing this nonsense that you believe. It's not a force, is it? So it can't do anything. It might be an effect. Maybe it could be entropy. Could be something else. Might be electromagnetic. Who cares what it might be? We can speculate all day. But you haven't got a barrier for it to bounce off to come back to Earth, have you? The gas pressure is not pushing down. It's pushing against the walls of its container in all directions evenly.
Right.
It's just disproportionately unrealistic to argue that we should have a model. How should we have a model? There's no science for a flat Earth.
Say what?
Finally, something we can agree on, Riley. Case closed. You're a globe earther. Thank God.